So I think we're online now. Yes, it says we're live.
Are we live? Let me
Yeah.
check.
Great.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Dennis and Alex and Isabel. We're calling in from AWS today with another AWS EMEA, which stands for Europe, Middle East, and Africa office hours. So we are trying to answer your technical, maybe not so technical questions. We talk a lot about AWS, everything that you would like to know. So you can use the chat to ask your questions. But also just lurk and listen. There's no obligation to say anything. So if you just want to listen in, that's fine as well. We also do have, we are streaming to a number of channels, including the official AWS channel and a few other channels of the team. And also welcome to the people on Marcia's channel on FooBar. Marcia can't be here today, unfortunately, which doesn't really matter. Thanks anyway for being online. As I said, if you have any questions, and let me just put that on here. If you have any questions, just let us know through the chat. I can see we already have almost 100 viewers today, which is really great. This is awesome. We are also on Twitter. It's Isabel. Everybody's going to introduce themselves in a minute. We have Isabel at Isahuerga, Alex Casalboni, and myself. Please follow us on Twitter. For everyone, including the people on Matthias' channel, welcome. Let us know if you have any questions about AWS. Maybe let's do a quick round of introduction. Isabel, why don't you start?
All right. So my name is Isabel Huerga, or Isa, for if you prefer. And I am a developer advocate based in UK. But actually, I joined the team quite recently. I joined in April. And before that, I was still in AWS, but I was a technical account manager. If anyone doesn't know what a TAM is and is interested, I can explain it later. And also, you might have noticed my accent. I'm based in the UK, but I'm not actually originally from UK. I'm Spanish, but I've been living 10 years in Italy, in the beautiful Milano. And that's why my accent is so messed up. That's me.
Yeah, we have a lot of accents today. I'm actually from Italy. I'm Alex. I'm also developer advocate like Dennis and Isa. And I've been based in Italy for the last 30-something years. And well, I'm a developer advocate. I'm actually traveling a lot. I used to travel a lot, like everyone in our team. This year, it's a little bit different, as you probably can imagine. But hey, we are still here for you if you have questions. So keep it coming.
Yeah, and I can see we have a visitor from Denver, Colorado. It's 3 a.m. over there. Hey, nice that you're here.
Wow.
It's pretty early. Yeah, it's around noon here. It's 11 a.m. in Germany. I'm based in Germany. I'm Dennis, calling in out of Hamburg, the most beautiful town in the world. That's what they say. Right now, it's just rainy and gray. I'm a developer advocate as well. I joined the team this summer also. I used to be a solutions architect in AWS before that, and I've been doing software development all my life. So this is my passion, and I really love about talking that. And this is not, it's 2:34 in India. We've got someone from India as well. Kobus is here. And also Marcia is there on her channel. She's not on the screen, but she will pop in every now and then and maybe join us on the chat. That's really great. So welcome, everyone. Please feel yourselves at home, ask your questions. As I said, they can be technical, they can be non-technical. If you want to know anything about how it is to work at AWS, or there's an interesting position, or if you want to talk about specific services, or you have a specific technical issue, just let us know. I will try to keep an eye on the chat. It's great to have so many people online. This is really going to be fun. And maybe until
we can talk about anything, really. Last time we talked about websites and games and even satellites at some point. So let's see where we end up today.
Yeah. Wow. So maybe until the first questions roll in, Isa, why don't you tell us, is there anything that you've been working on in the last few weeks on AWS that you really, really liked or found interesting?
I don't know if I don't know if I would describe it like that, but this week I was trying to build a demo with lake formation. I don't know, for those of you who don't know the service, I wanted to do a demo building data lakes or just simplifying the process because it's quite intense. There are a lot of stages from creating the storage and moving the data and doing the transformations, cleanup, securing, giving access. It's a lot. And lake formation is a service that really helps. It automates a lot of these steps. So this week I've been kind of battling with that, trying to make a demo of building a data lake with lake formation, but it's challenging because there is a time constraint, and obviously a lot of these stages require time, right? A very simple transformation was taking me 20 minutes. So how do you do a demo when you have stages that require this waiting lapse of times? So I was trying to figure out, okay, these ones I can prepare in advance, and these ones I can trying to leave as much as I could for the live part. So yeah, that's what I've been trying to figure out these days. What do I need to prepare in advance, and how can I put as much as possible inside the demo? And I have to say, lake formation is really good because it automates a lot of these stages. So it allowed me to, even the parts that I prepared in advance, at least I could show this is how it's done, and this is what actually lake formation does all the job for you. So in reality, what you have missed is just like 2 clicks and waiting 20 minutes. It's not you've missed like a very difficult configuration. It's just the waiting time that you've missed.
I've got an interesting question, Andreas. Actually, Andreas is an old buddy of mine. Thanks for watching. Great for being on. So he's asking, what's the SA solutions architect for startups position like? I can't really tell because I used to be on the very other end of the spectrum. I was a global solutions architect. So I was working for a very large worldwide company. But in general, maybe I can talk a little bit about the SA role real quick. The solutions architect basically is someone from AWS who supports our customers in understanding the kind of workloads, the kind of scenarios that they have, and really learn about how the services and the features of AWS can help solving the issues with certain things in mind. We basically have 5 pillars that we think about very much. The first one, most importantly, of course, is security, but then also, then also there's reliability, there's performance, there's operational excellence, and of course, cost optimization. So the solutions architects at AWS are not so much salespeople. They are more people who try to help you understand really how you can use AWS to your benefit. So really one of the major focuses is how to make it as inexpensive as possible. I've done that for a very large customer. So I was dealing with a lot of migration and SAP and things like that. I guess an SA for startups is much more involved with small companies in an early stage, where it's really about how can we move as quickly as possible without spending too much money. Really, we don't have a lot of runway. We really have to get something up and running really quick to see if it's feasible, to bring it out to the market. Because one of the most important things in product development, especially for startups, is getting out of the door, talking to actual customers, bringing something to the customers. And we as AWS and the solutions architect specifically try and help understand how can we build something really quickly without putting too much effort, too much time, and too much money in it. And that's what the solutions architect for startups does. I don't know if any of you, Isa or Alex, have any insights into that.
Yeah, actually, I come from the startup world, and I have interacted with some startup SA, and I also work with many startups every day myself. Yeah. I try to help them and to figure out what's the best way to build a new product. And I think another pillar that is fascinating for startups is, okay, I want to build it quickly and cheaply, but also I want to keep a window open in case I scale 100x in the next 48 hours. Those things happen, especially if you have a new product and you don't really know how many people want to use it in the next few weeks or few months. So you also want to build it in a way that can scale without re-architecting everything over the weekend, which happens. I've done it in my startup. So, hey, this is great. It worked the first 6 months, but now we are growing too much. We need to really rethink about it. So it's also a matter of choosing the right services and choosing the right technology so that you can scale almost seamlessly, which is not always super easy, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have much insight. I was at TAM, not an SA, even though I work with SAs, but TAMs usually work with enterprise customers because it's part of the enterprise support agreement. And while there were a few startups with an enterprise agreement, the ones that I work with weren't at the early stages. They were more at later stages in their journey. So I think Alex's advice is probably more relevant for this specific question. What I would say is, I don't know if this question is just showing an interest on considering changing the career. So I'm just going to throw it there. There is jobs.amazon.com, and we're hiring for a number of positions. So
yeah, I'll put it in there, jobs.amazon. Yep. That's actually the link, https:// here we go. So we have a few more questions. Somebody's asking, I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Why, boss? Can I get pacemaker battery in Europe? He followed up with racemaker. I'm not sure if you mean deep racer. And I don't know if you
probably.
I don't know if you can get the batteries in Germany or in Europe. I know that the deep racer cars still have to be bought through the United States. However, I think the frame of the cars is a standard frame for RC cars. So I would assume that the battery could be just a default battery, but I don't really know. This is a question I unfortunately can't answer. I'm really sorry. Anybody of you?
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but maybe if you reach out, we can figure it out for you. And I know there are a few deep racer cars in Europe. They were brought from reInvent in the last couple of years. Many AWS heroes or AWS community leaders have one. So maybe we can, together figure it out. What's the best way to replace a battery?
Another one from Kizan. What's the best way of developing serverless applications on a local environment? Best practices and so on.
Yeah, if you want, I can take this.
Yeah, please.
Dennis. So I think it's very tempting at the beginning, like you are used to developing something in your laptop and you want to, develop the core business logic of the application and see if it works or not. Maybe write some unit tests as well. And you can do all of that locally, depending on what framework you're using. If you're using the serverless framework, there are a couple of plugins you can use to emulate Lambda and API Gateway locally. You can do the same with AWS SAM as well. And there are other options out there that allow you to emulate Lambda and API Gateway locally. I actually only recommend this to prototype initially, even before you have your unit tests up and running, mostly because you end up building something that you want to actually test it in a environment that is as similar as possible to your AWS account, to a production environment, because you have things that you can't really emulate locally, like IAM permissions or the horizontal scalability or auto scaling kind of things, or provision concurrency, things that you just cannot emulate. So many developers, maybe many experienced developers, recommend you use local emulators mostly at the prototyping phase. So check out these two options: SAM local, SAM CLI, that you can use in your CLI bash, whatever you're using, or the serverless framework, which are very similar options. After that, try to mock all the external dependencies in your unit or integration tests, and eventually go and deploy it to an actual AWS account, so you can see that everything actually works in the cloud. That's my personal suggestion.
Okay. Another one. This is related to Streamlit on AWS, so AI and machine learning. Hey guys, I tried deploying machine learning built with Streamlit. on AWS, but the process was so cumbersome that I had to go and use Heroku. Sorry to hear that. And yes, sometimes third-party tools and solutions take some work. I will be happy if you guys talk about this and, if possible, make it less cumbersome for newbies to deploy machine learning, especially built with Streamlit. Does any of you two have experience with Streamlit specifically?
I actually haven't. Yeah, me neither. But I can imagine, like, if you could share what was cumbersome and what was the problem and what you actually used. Were you trying to use EC2? Were you using already the deep learning AMI? Maybe that could be a better starting point. So you already have a lot of libraries and dependencies and GPU drivers and everything you might need instead of just the bare EC2 instance. Or maybe you were using SageMaker, and I like to understand what didn't work for you. What did you try? Because there are multiple options, right?
I think this is so specific. I would like to do something else. I would just like you to reach out to me or one of us. I'll post our Twitter handles real quick here. If you just reach out to us, we will get you in touch with our AI and ML specialist on the team. Who's she's Antje. She's really does really a lot in that area, and she's specialized. So I will get you in touch with her so that she will really be able to talk to you about your specific situation and might be able to help you, if that's okay.
I think we got a response already. So you were using EC2, I see in the comment, which is great. I do recommend you try the deep learning AMI. So it's not, you have a lot more in there, a lot of libraries, a lot of drivers, so you don't have to install everything from scratch. That might be less cumbersome to get started. Let me know if you have tried that already. The next level for me would be, okay, try.
Now I've lost him.
I wasn't sure if it was me.
Yeah, no.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, Alex.
No.
Can't hear you.
Maybe.
And now again. Okay, we're having some technical issues with Alex right now. I'm very sorry about that.
We're going to remain with the curiosity of what was the answer?
What's the solution? Right.
The next step is what?
Yeah.
You lost.
We lost you. Yes. We lost you. Your image and everything.
Well, we will have to wait for that.
Yeah,
for
maybe
the next step.
Yeah, maybe you can just log out real quick and log in again because your image is frozen. Still frozen out. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, as I said, Warrenfi, maybe we get the answer of the solution by Alex again. But as I said, just feel free to reach out. Here we go. Feel free to reach out, and we'll get you in touch with our AI and ML specialists. Alex, the thing is, you said, and the solution is, and then you were gone, and everybody was so excited. Now, what is it?
I think I was saying the next step would be try to use SageMaker, the notebooks, or maybe the SageMaker Studio. That might give you a higher abstraction layer, so you don't have to deal with all the EC2 operational side of it. But reach out directly. We can dive deep into that with you.
Yeah, I think Streamlit is a Python framework that can be run on Python notebooks, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Oh yeah. So another question. We just started exploring AWS. Can you explain how to choose between using EC2 Instance or Lambda Functions with API Gateway?
Wow, this
that
is
would take like 3 hours. Yeah, you want to try that, Isa? Or
how do we tackle this? There are so many considerations. You are talking probably about the two extremes, or at least they are quite separate in terms of type of architecture. From one, EC2 is really low level, it's virtual servers, and Lambda with API is proper serverless. So this goes into how much do you need to manage the infrastructure and the architecture and all the components of the architecture. From EC2, meaning you need to manage absolutely everything from the resources of the different virtual machines to the OS, to the software inside the OS, and so on, to Lambda and API Gateway, which are completely serverless, so you don't have to worry about any of the underlying infrastructure. And this probably what I would recommend is to look at the shared responsibility models for each of these services, and that will also help you understand how much does AWS do for you, and how much remains on your side of the fence on terms of responsibility. And what this means is the things that you need to take care of. But it's two complete different models.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
My super simple tip is, if your goal is building applications and you're a developer and you have never done sysops or sysadmin kind of things, probably EC2 is not the best starting point for you. So with Lambda and API Gateway, you have a better starting point that abstracts away all the the operations and the operating system patching and the runtime, everything that is usually not your responsibility as a developer. That said, you can always learn about operations and learn about what it means to operate a fleet of EC2 machines. That's always fun to learn as well. So don't feel afraid to pick the wrong direction, but depending on your background, there might be an easier or a harder way to get started.
And depending on the intention, right? If you're just experimenting, try them both. See the differences. If you're thinking production environment, you probably want to do serverless as much as possible and abstract as much as possible, because that is going to allow you to focus on the things that you really want to focus on, and the things that are going to differentiate your products, services, whatever it is that you're building. So it also depends on experimentation. Go wild, try everything. Production, serverless if you can.
I mean, it depends on so many things. I try not to use that answer because that's very consultancy. It depends. Now, the thing is, if you want to migrate an existing application, it might be a good way to simply start really migrating the existing application from on-premises into EC2, and then use the strangler pattern to start and building new functionality or replacing some functionality using serverless functions, using Lambda functions, and grow your application from an I'm sorry, maybe from a monolithic Spring application, for instance, or ASP.NET application, whatever you have, into a hybrid. You don't even need to migrate everything. You can have the core of your application still running on an EC2 instance, and then have additional functionality, specific services run through Lambda with API Gateway. So there's also the middle way. And also, one thing that I would like to mention, of course, if you use raw EC2, you will have to take care of all the networking and all this network security and so forth. But there's also things like Elastic Beanstalk, which will take care of the provisioning of your application, of the tiering of the networking, or things like Lightsail, which is a very simple services that allows you to deploy your application and don't onto an EC2 instance, and don't really have to worry about all the infrastructure stuff. So there are ways to work with EC2 without having to do the raw hands-on work that you have to do as a sysadmin. There are many ways. And really, if you want to move something that you already have, try and experimenting with moving it to EC2 and maybe developing new features using serverless functions, using Lambda functions and API Gateway. The best thing you can do is really learn about the technologies, find out what interests you, what you like, because using Lambda functions it's a different way of thinking as well. It's a different paradigm, and it takes some time to get used to if you've been working in a traditional environment for a long time. But maybe you like it. It's really much about what you like as well. It's not only about what's better or not.
Another middle ground is actually Fargate. I see a lot of developers that have an application that would not easily run on Lambda, because maybe you need to run a long running tasks for like 30 minutes or a couple of hours, and that doesn't really fit the programming model of Lambda. So you can go back to the containers and you can use Fargate. You do not see EC2 much because Fargate automates all the provisioning of the fleet and the instances, but you can still basically migrate anything you would like to, because you don't have a lot of the constraints of Lambda. So there is a lot of middle ground between EC2 and Lambda. It really depends on your background and your objectives.
Yeah. Here, for the person who was asking the deep eraser replacement part question before, somebody else, Ganesh, posted on the comments a link. Unfortunately, I'm not able to copy and paste the command for all the channels. That's why I put it on the screen. So there are replacement parts listed. Maybe you find something that you can order in the EU. I hope that's helpful to you. So we have another very, very, very specific question from someone on YouTube. How can we add a new region like Cape Town to DynamoDB global table, as tables are not empty any longer, and regions can usually only be added when you're creating a new table?
I think that was true only until a couple months ago when we launched global tables. The constraint was, yes, you can add new regions, but only if the current table is empty. I think that constraint vanished like a couple months ago. We announced that we would take care of replicating the data to the new region. So I have to admit, during summer, I haven't actually tried it myself, but I encourage you to have a look and see that it's probably gone. This problem is probably gone for a couple months already.
Okay, good. So just a real quick welcome to all the newcomers. This is the AWS EMEA, which stands for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Ask us anything. It's not just for customers in EMEA; it's for everyone. But from a time zone perspective, it's 11:30 in Germany right now. We try to accommodate all our customers all around the world, and we are developer advocates from the EMEA team. Actually, Isa is calling in from London, Alex is calling in from Milan in Italy, and I'm calling in from Hamburg. And we're asking all your yes, we're trying to answer all your questions around AWS. Many of which we might not be able to answer off the cuff, but we try to help out as much as possible. You can reach out to us on Twitter. Our handles are Isa Verga for Isabel, Alex Casalboni, and myself. Please let us know in the chat if you have any questions. We're also live on Masia's channel on YouTube, which is great. Masia is not online, or rather, Masia is in the chat on her YouTube channel, but she's not online on the screen right now, which doesn't matter. We still like to take all your questions. So let me have a look at the comment if we have anything else. Let me see real quick. So we had that. We just had the region question. So then what's the best way to, by Deepa, what's the best way to debug locally, especially if you have external Lambda functions addressing internal Lambda functions, etc.? Alex, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to the answer we gave at the beginning of this session. You still want to emulate your functions and your API gateways locally. If you have dependencies, there are ways to also emulate dependencies like DynamoDB or your RDS databases or SNS or SQS. In your specific case, you have, it's not too clear to me what you mean by external lambdas addressing internal lambdas. External means out of your control, or it means in another region. It's not too clear to me. I think in general, when you debug and when you test locally, you want to mock everything that is out of the scope of an individual Lambda function. You want to do unit tests locally. Integration tests, do it in a real AWS account. You avoid a lot of issues, a lot of compatibility issues with the local emulators. So that's my personal suggestion, but maybe we can follow up on this later.
You always have the risk of the works on my machine effect, because in our AWS provided Lambda environment, everything is really, really specified, and we know exactly how things work together. We try to emulate this with our local environments, but still it depends on specifics on your local machine. And so if you try to test functions locally, really try to test only the local function, give it some input, expect the output, and and if you try to test integration between functions, and I think I understand that external lambdas and internal lambdas in terms of some are running in AWS and some are being run locally, how they can interact with each other. And I think this brings a certain amount of complexity to the problem that makes it really hard to debug. As once you're crossing basically borders between AWS and your local machine, there can be so many individual configuration details in place that are really hard to troubleshoot.
Recommend to not invoke a function from another function. You probably want to have a messaging service or a pub sub mechanism like SNS or SQS or even bridge. There are at least 3, 4, 5 different ways to let functions talk to each other without calling each other. So you can decouple them more easily, and also local testing becomes easier. So as long as you can write your message or your input into a queue or into SNS or even bridge, you then trust the service to be able to invoke the second function.
Okay, so it's so great to have people on the chat help out with questions. So actually, there's the details around the deep racer, which parts or which frame and remote control chassis it uses. I will go to the next question. We have one here. If there's any tutorial or guide to deploy machine learning Docker images on AWS SageMaker.
I've seen it. Let me find it. So
okay.
Yeah, we need a link here.
Yeah, while Alex looks for it, I'll look for the... there's a question on Amplify. Oh, now the scrolling got me. How to call...
It's very busy today.
Yeah, how to call an Amplify REST API through Postman.
I don't know the answer for that one.
Okay.
I think, is that not what Marcia was answering there?
Did she?
She's very busy. She's working hard.
Marcia for... she's down there. Yeah.
Alex might know the answer too. I don't know, Alex, if you want to also fill in.
I think it depends. Most of the problem there is with authentication. If it's a RESTful API, as long as you have the address and the path of the API, you can integrate it into your Postman. If you have custom authentication or cognito authentication, usually with Amplify, you probably need to generate a token and configure that token in the header, in the authorization header, so that the request can go through the cognito authentication as well. But maybe Marcia also has some more detailed documentation about spatial Postman integration. I'm not aware of that. By the way, I share with you a SageMaker Docker integration tutorial from the doc if you want to share it.
Give me a second. This one here. I'll share it on the chat for everyone. Because every time I post something, I lose track of all the questions. We have so many great questions, and I'm really afraid we won't be able to answer them all today.
I think Marta is doing a fantastic job. She's really working very hard on that chat.
Yeah,
and I love when there is an answer and the whole team just posts the same answer. Like, it's brilliant. Thank you, everyone, for helping the chat. It's really great.
Yeah, I'll take this one real quick from Ricky U 1978. So how long do Lambda functions keep warm? That is coming up quite often. Can I cache a database connection string? And can a Lambda function call another Lambda function? And the fourth question of the 3 is, can a Lambda function send a stream and or a WebSocket? Maybe I'll start with the caching database connection strings. So yes, of course, you can cache a database connection. And one of the important things is you should resolve all dependencies, like, for instance, opening a connection outside of the Lambda function handler, outside of the handler function, so that if the warm function is being reused, all the dependencies are still resolved. So that can save you a lot of time and a lot of resources. That's one thing. But on the other hand, we also have a thing called RDS proxy. right now, which specifically deals with the issue that the fact that many Lambda functions, especially if you have many concurrent Lambda functions, opening connections to the database, this can be very tough from a performance perspective. We do have RDS proxy, which really basically provides a connection pool that your Lambda functions, no matter if they are warm or cold, can easily connect to and use already open connections to your RDS. And maybe Alex.
And, I can take the second. The answer is yes, you can invoke Lambda functions from within a Lambda function. As I mentioned previously, it's not the best practice. There are better ways to do it. But if you are 100% sure it's OK in your use case, go ahead. And can you handle streams and WebSockets from a Lambda function? So you cannot open a socket and wait for things to happen, because that's not the programming model of Lambda. But you can actually handle WebSockets through API Gateway itself. So you can configure API Gateway to keep the connection open for you. And API Gateway will invoke your Lambda function whenever there is a new message in the connection. And you can also send back messages to one specific connection or even to multiple connections. So if you have a chat kind of mechanism, you can deal with that using API Gateway WebSockets.
Good step functions would also be interesting for this question in terms of having that sequence of the Lambda calling another Lambda, like having this sequence of events, right?
Yeah, or orchestration in general. If it's not just a simple one function that invokes another, if it's more complex than that, you probably want to externalize that orchestration logic and use something like AWS step functions. Totally agree. And not only because you can make the function itself more granular and more, like a microservice that's only doing one thing, but because there are many cases where your functions are actually just invoking something else and waiting and idling. And you don't actually pay for all that idle time if you're using step functions. You are only paying for the number of state transitions in your state machine. So it might actually be cheaper to run as well.
I'm looking at Marcia's really doing a great job of answering all the questions that are in her channel. Here we go. This one from Prashant. Thanks for the question. I'm using Cognito for authentication and need to log out the user from all active devices immediately whenever the user changes the password. Cognito Global Signout API did not help.
Okay. I need to dive deep into that. If the global sign out API didn't help, that seems odd. Maybe it's about how you're handling the authentication in your API. If you are using like a JWT token, given that it's Cognito, maybe you need to invalidate that token or have a shorter time to leave. Usually it lasts for like 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 2 hours, depending on how you configure it. So it might be about that. But maybe let's dive deeper into the global sign-out API. That should work. That's kind of the goal of it. So yeah, let me follow up on that.
Another question by Deepa. If there's a way to throttle certain Lambda functions, so for example, if a developer writes an infinite loop on accident, that you won't burn thousands of dollars by on-demand usage. So one thing, there's two things to that. One thing is a single Lambda function can run a maximum of 15 minutes. So even if you have a recursive loop inside of your function, the Lambda just stops after 15 minutes and you're charged for the maximum of these 15 minutes. And this very often really is inside of the free tier that you have every month. So you probably won't burn that much money there. But also if a loop leads to an invocation of another Lambda function, so that you invoke concurrent Lambda functions, one thing is we do have a soft limit on the number of concurrent functions that you can run, which is, I think, at 1,000. So if you need more concurrent functions, you can open that through a support request. Just really for this reason, to make sure that if you have a recursive loop somewhere and you invoke a function a million times, that you don't run into that issue. And at the same time, you also can define the concurrency of your functions as well. So you can say, as part of your function definition, that this specific function is only allowed to run in one instance. So you have a singleton, basically, or you only want to run 5 instances concurrently at maximum. This is a parameter on the function definition itself, where you can really restrict the concurrency of your functions, so that you really make sure that you don't run into any cost issues because, for instance, of a recursive loop, or maybe someone tries and DDoS your application and you have so many invocations. So the soft limits on the functions protect you from that, and the fact that a function only runs for 15 minutes maximum. And
you can also set it to 0 in case you really want to shut everything down. Usually this kind of loop happen with like an S3 event, and then your function is going to write a new S3 object, and you kind of end up in a loop. And even though you have only 5 or 6 concurrent events, it will go on forever if you don't stop it. So yeah, setting it to 0 might help you there.
Okay. Another one by Ricky. API gateway always confuses me. So I have 10 Lambda functions with their own HTTP trigger URL. What does API gateway do for these URLs? Do you understand the question? I'm not entirely sure.
So the thing is, you configure Lambda function to run some business logic when something happens, but API gateway is what connects the URL, like / blah, 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 to a specific function. You might have 10 different triggers, 10 different URLs, but sometimes you're happy with all these 10 URLs to invoke the same function. Oftentimes, much more often, you want each specific URL to be mapped to one Lambda function. And that's because you want to think of Lambda functions like very independent pieces of code, eventually even implemented with different programming language or by different teams completely. So API gateway is just the mapping. And actually, there are multiple ways to use API gateway. The most common is using the proxy API configuration. But you also have HTTP API. That's the new type, much simpler, a bit cheaper and faster as well. So if that's what the confusion is about, in other software worlds, you don't have to configure the HTTP endpoint. But API gateway is not just that. It's also DDoS protection. It's also rate limiting. You have API keys. You can configure a lot of things, not just the URL mapping, if that's what was confusing you.
Yeah. So thanks, Alex, for the answer. Again, welcome everybody who's new on the stream. This is Dennis, Isabel, and Alex from AWS. We're developer advocates here in the European, Middle Eastern, and African region. And we are running this weekly AMA, Ask Me Anything, every Wednesday at 10 o'clock Central European summertime, which is, I think, 10 British and 12 Eastern European. And the same in Africa. I don't really have the African time zone names in my mind, but we're between 10 and 12 o'clock, and we are answering all your technical, maybe not so technical questions on AWS. Thanks everyone for listening in, and we have many questions today, and we probably won't be able to answer all of them, which is why you can also follow us on Twitter and send us a message, maybe on Twitter, a message or a direct message if you don't want to ask your question publicly, which is fine as well. We will keep everything confidential. So if you reach out to us confidentially, we can even talk about your specific use case, and we don't need to discuss this in the public. So please reach out to me at dtraub, to Alex at Alex_Casalboni, or to Isabel at Isa Huerga on Twitter. And I can see we have a few more questions in the comments. Twitch Ganesh is really helping out with the answers, which is really great. Thank you so much. I might consider making you a moderator next time on the stream, because that's really helpful. Thank you so much. I had another one. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Start architecture wars among you through and build different styles of your own architecture. Would be great to watch and learn things. So it probably wouldn't be a war. It would be a lot of fun. But that's a really great idea, actually. This is an idea I would like to take back to the team, where we come up with maybe a simple application and have each and every one of us build the application in their own style, because we have so different, especially the three of us, we have so different backgrounds, and we probably have completely different approaches from an architectural perspective. This really is something that I would like to take back to the team and discuss if we can't make something like a show out of that, and discuss, or even rather really build something simple and see how we think. I totally, as a developer, I find it so interesting to watch over a developer's shoulder when they talk me through what they're doing and understand how they think, because it is so insightful to see how different things can be solved, how different the same problem can be solved. And if you ask 3 developers, you probably have 5 opinions of how it could be solved. So that's an interesting point, Shiva. Thanks for that idea. That is really great. I love that.
We've actually done that with the AWS user group in Milan. We did 2 episodes. One was EC2 versus containers versus serverless. That was fun, I think, last year. And the second one was for infrastructure as code. So we did a CloudFormation versus CDK versus Terraform. That was a fun one too. So
nice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in Italian, so the video is not very useful for everyone.
Well, for 2 of you, it probably is. Here's another one. Let me see. I'm trying to find it. It was related to Lambda. Come on. There's so many things here.
I have to say, in the meantime,
yes.
Thank you to Marcia. For those of you, we keep mentioning, thank you, Marcia. You're answering a lot of questions. Marcia is actually answering with her channel name, which is FooBar Serverless. And for those of you who don't come from that channel and don't know her, I totally recommend you check her videos. She has a lot of videos that show the answers to many of the questions that we are seeing today. She talks a lot about serverless, about API gateway, Lambda, step facts. She talks about almost everything that is interesting for developers. But yeah, if you don't know the channel, FooBar in YouTube, absolutely recommend it. Yeah. And thank you again, Marcia, for the hard work that you're doing on that chat.
Yeah, I'll put that in the link. I hope it's the right one. That in the chat, the link to the channel. Here you go. So for everyone except the people from Marcia's channel, thanks. No, for everyone, thanks for logging in, and for everyone who's not on Marcia's channel right now, here's the link to her channel. She's doing an awesome job. She's a member of the developer advocates here as well, and she does lots of videos. She does educational videos and shows, and that's really fun. I'm not sure about this one. Sumit, how do we enable S3 for images in Amplify? Right now, the protected images are being fetched directly from S3. I'm currently only learning about AWS. I'm constantly learning about AWS.
We all are
learning about Amplify right now. Maybe someone, if you can take that.
Yeah, I think S3 is the default when you enable storage for images, for example, on Amplify. What you probably want to enable is a CDN. So you are serving those images not from S3 directly. I think there is an option to do that just as well, similarly to how you add storage or you add authentication to your project. I think you can also add a CDN to distribute content, in a more efficient way. So there is caching involved, like Amazon CloudFront, for example. Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. It should be just like AWS Amplify at CDN or hosting. It's probably hosting now that I think of it. Let me try out.
Oh, thanks, Ganesh, for the links to the workshops. I love doing labs, and those are really great resources that you share there.
Yeah, I'm looking for one as well. I'm not on a VPN right now, so I don't have access to the. But we have a number of really large number of public workshops. Maybe I'll look that up later. So let me have a look at the comments. If we have any more questions, yeah, regarding the question of hands-on training for certification, interested in hands-on projects and study groups. We have many AWS workshops on GitHub. Maybe one of the two of you can. I'll look it up real quick.
I think Ganesh already.
Ganesh
he already
did.
Yeah.
Here's the link that from what Alex talked about just before, AWS Amplify CLI hosting, and what we have is give me just a second. We have AWS Labs on GitHub. Here we go. I'll post this link as well. There are many labs, hands-on labs that you can go through that are on GitHub. And we also have a number of AWS samples. That is something that you can go through too, just to see how we would build certain things. And I think specifically for certification, we had another question on the comments that I didn't pull up, but I would still like to answer it. What certification would be necessary to work at AWS or to work in an AWS context? Technically, none, because a certification doesn't really replace experience. And you still can work with AWS without having much experience, because you will learn on the job, definitely. No matter if you join AWS, we have many people joining AWS as employees who don't have any beforehand experience, because what we really like to do, and this is something that I would recommend, is people who have the right mindset, who like to learn, who are interested, and who are eager and really are curious, like we are, who like to learn and be curious. They will learn whatever they need. So if you're really interested, you don't really need a certification to get a job. It might be helpful in some instances. But what certification really is helpful for, and it was for me even before I joined AWS as an employee, was there are so many things you can do with AWS. We had the question today around EC2 or Lambda function. We have which specific services should you use, and so forth. And this actually can be a little bit overwhelming. And going a certification path and learning about things that you need for a specific certificate can help you really understand the core services of AWS. You don't have to learn everything. You don't have to use everything. I've never touched our IoT services or our media services. So I don't know about them. I know that they exist, but I don't know about them. But usually, if you don't work in the media industry, or if you don't work in manufacturing, some things just aren't important for you. We have a very large platform. We provide a broad range of services with a lot of depth to them, and nobody can know all of them. So a certification really can help you understand a specific area, like the developer associate, where you learn about how do Lambda functions work, how does Dynamodb work, things like that. Or the solutions architect associate, where you learn how the things play together, how architecture works in a cloud-based environment. Or the SysOps admin, where you'll learn about more the administrative side of things. And then you can go either take a specialties like security or database or analytics or machine learning, or you could go a professional certification route like solutions architect or DevOps engineer, where you really learn about the intricacies. So for me, having taken lots of certifications on AWS in the past, for me, it really was a great way to have a structure around learning, to have also limits of what to learn, what to focus on, because you can do so many things. And I would really recommend try and do the Solutions Architect Associate certification, because that is something where you really learn about the core services on one hand, but also about how to think about, to reason about architecture in the cloud, because it is slightly different in some instances than the way we did it in the past with an on-premises environment where we still hugged our servers. And
I'll tell you a secret, Dennis. When I joined AWS, I had 0 certifications. Not everybody knows that, though, so don't tell anyone. But then, if you have years of experience, I had something like 3 or 4 years of experience, and I just one day decided to try a certification without studying, and because of the experience, I could pass it. So if you don't have that experience, a certification might help you get up and running and get you inside some services or topic areas that are relevant for your job or for your career. If you want to be a cloud solution architect in the next couple of years, that's a good starting point.
A couple of ideas in terms of hands-on, going back to the question. There are the quick labs where you can find some. Quick Labs is a site that provides these lab environments where the environment is provisioned when you start the lab, and it gets all terminated once you finish. So it's a very simple way and safe way to try and explore AWS without using your own account and with like 0 risk. And they do have some of these labs that are available for free. So I don't know if someone can put the link. It's good to have a look. At least start with the free ones.
There are many options actually, like Cloud Guru or cloudacademy.com. There are many platforms for e-learning and to get hands-on experience.
The other one is the quiz show. AWS has, actually it's in Twitch too. We do have a quiz show, which is, if you're preparing for the certification, it's a great place, I think, to meet people alike that are also preparing for the certification, and it's a very fun way to practice and to also ask questions and interact with others. So I think that's also a good environment. And for those of you interested on learning AWS, maybe with little experience, I think it could be useful to talk a little bit about the Restart program, or at least if someone can also share the link, because this is a program that I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's 12 weeks program where the accepted candidates can receive training that leads to an AWS certification. And also, I think at the end of the training, they also provide advice on how to tackle interviews, and it's a great way to get started in a potential career working with AWS, even if you have no previous experience or no previous knowledge at all.
I'll post a number of links now. The first one is regarding, Darko, who I posted his answer, which is a link again, which unfortunately you can't click, but just search for AWS Self-Paced Labs. Darko actually is one of our team members as well. He's thanks for being online. The next one is regarding the question before, where to find study groups. We do have worldwide. We do have a number of, and I'll put it on here as well. A number of user groups everywhere. AWS user groups where people who are working with AWS meet and exchange experience and talk about that a lot. And another one is what Isabel just talked about, is here we go, is the Restart program. This is something which is very interested for people who would like to join the workforce or rejoin the workforce and get into the cloud and get into developing and building on AWS. I will take one more question. It's 11:59. It's and now I can't find it anymore.
Drum roll.
Because that was a simple one, a quick one to answer. Here we go. This one by Asalan. Let's say I'm building an Instagram clone, so I need to make the S3 bucket public, and I have a Node backend where I have custom authentication implemented. Can I let only my EC2 instance access S3 through identity and access management?
Well, if you're using S3 for public images, what's the point? Well, I mean, you can, You can use S3 access point, or you can use IAM. But then you also want those images on S3 to be public. So maybe you want to use two different buckets, one for public images that are uploaded by users, and one for private or protected information that you do not want to be public. So that's this, I think, the simplest way. Instead of having one bucket with some public and some private information, why not just separate it into two different buckets? But yes, you can have an IAM policy that provides access to S3 objects from an EC2 instance. Absolutely. That's actually what I recommend. Maybe using a role, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to add something, guys.
Yeah, I could imagine a situation where you want to, where you basically you don't let people post their images to S3 directly, because you might want to first do some image recognition to make sure they are safe for work and things like that. But you would store them then for retrieval. So it would be publicly readable in the bucket, but you would have a node application on EC2 that actually takes the images, processes the images in a certain way, and then stores them in the public S3 bucket. So the EC2 instance would have the permission to write the images to S3, and the users of the application would only have the permissions to read. And this is something that can be done through IAM, that the users through Cognito, for instance, get permissions to read the images, and or they are even publicly readable for everyone on the internet. But to write and to modify the images, you would have an EC2 instance with a so-called instance profile, which has a role attached, an IAM role attached, which allows it to write and modify and even maybe delete images in the EC2 bucket. So this is something this is how it should be done. So your way of thinking is very good. It's exactly the way I would do it. Looking at the clock, we are 2 minutes past the hour. Thank you very much, everyone, for having joined the show. We weren't able to answer all your questions. Please reach out to us on Twitter. We're available for you at Isa Huerga, Alex Casalboni, and D. Traub. This show is running every Wednesday at 11 o'clock Central European time, 10 o'clock British, and 12 o'clock Eastern European. We would like to have you on the show again. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your questions. Thank you very much, Isabel and Alex, for being on the show. This really was fun today, and we had a lot of interesting questions. Today it was a lot about Lambda functions. Maybe next week we will have a different topic, maybe around containers or machine learning or something like that. I wish you, everyone, have a nice day, have a nice week. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.